So hi everybody, I'm Jaedong Bai. I'm currently a first year PhD student at UC Irvine. My advisor is Professor Chen Li.
Hello everyone, my name is Anshuman Sharma. I recently graduated with my master's in data science from UC Irvine, and I'm currently working as a research assistant with Professor Lee.
Sounds good. Thanks, Anshuman. Thanks for joining the demo. Today we are going to show you how we can publish data, share data, publish the data analysis, and also share the data analysis on Texera platform. We're going to start from scratch. And I'm going to play the role of Naomi. Uh, I have a published paper about the mortality data of United States. And Anshuman gonna play the role of Bob, a colleague of mine from New York.
Thank you for assigning me that role, Naomi.
Thank you, Bob. Let's get started. So now we both on Texera platform. So you can see here I have a workflow ready, but I don't have any data about my published paper yet. Bob, can you see any data on the Texera platform?
Well, let me quickly share my screen. Naomi, as of now, I cannot see any data which has been shared with me, so I guess there's nothing that has been shared yet.
Okay. So don't worry, I'm going to share the data with you real quick. Okay, so to publish and share data on Texera, you can simply create a data set to put all the data uh, in the same category. You're gonna share it with everybody. Okay, so let's name this data sets as mortality data sets, as this is a data set about mortality data. And I'm going to give a description about it so that I can find it during my research. And I don't want it to be public. Right now, I only want to keep this data shareable between me and Bob. So I'm gonna keep it private, and I'm going to upload the data I want to share with Bob from my local computer. As you can see, the file is successfully uploaded. Simply click create. Now I can see the data on Texera platform. And uh, it's a very beautiful preview. And I can make it public anytime I want. And now I'm going to share the data with Bob. Going to give Bob a write access so that he can create some version for the data. So Bob already shared the dataset with you. Can you see if you can view the datasets?
Naomi, just give me a second. Let me check if I have the access to the data. Let me quickly refresh. All right, lovely. Naomi, I can see that you've already shared the data with me. Let me quickly dig down deeper into this. It sounds good. I have the access for the data yet.
Perfect,
Thank you, Naomi.
no problem. So now, since Bob already has the access to the data, I also want to share this data analysis I did in my paper with Bob so that Bob can reproduce to understand every steps of my analysis and reproduce the results completely. Okay. So here is the whole view of the workflow I create. This workflow is translated from my startup program. As you can see, startup program requires some learning curve to understand. It has 100 lines of code full of text. It's hard for people to understand the logic in just a short period of time. But with workflow, this way of express the data analysis is very intuitive. I can see how the data flows, how the data is manipulated and presented. So to run this workflow, before running this workflow, I need to add datasets that this workflow required to it. So to add datasets, I can simply click this environment tab and add datasets. So now I can preview my data freely on this workspace. So now I'm ready to run my workflow. before that, I'm going to give an overview of the workflow. So this read the data in, do some typecasting, and then there's two part of analysis. The first part is about the total mortality and the casualty across all states of America from year 2013 to 2020. And the second part is to visualize the confidential interval, the rate ratio of total mortality of year 2019 and 2020 only. And this graph is presented in this paper I published. So I'm going to reproduce this graph in this workflow. And simply by click run button, I can see the data flow from the source operator all the way to each operator. Data is manipulated and finally presented. So let's see the first part of the results real quick. So the first part of the results shows that from year 2013 to 2019, there's no mortality because of COVID. But starting from year 2020, there are around 500 mortality caused by the COVID. And my second part of the data, of the analysis, is about a graph. And I can simply click visualize. Here is the graph I reproduce. As you can see, it's a dumbbell plot. The two end is the lower bound and upper bound of the confidential interval. And this graph is very identical to the graph I presented in the paper. And I can even interact with this graph, which is very lively. So now the result is presented. I'm going to share the data analysis with Bob. I'm going to give Bob the right access. Now I'm going to share with Bob. Bob, can you check if you can see this workflow?
Sure, just give me a second, Naomi. Perfect. So I have the access to the data sets. Let me quickly see if I have, oh, yes, I have the access for the workflow as well. Let me quickly dig down deeper into this. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing this workflow, Naomi, because I was actually going through this data code and it was very difficult for me to understand because, I was not pretty much aware of how that data works for me. So it was entirely a new subject to learn. But this seems pretty interesting and pretty self-explanatory. I can see, we're aggregating the data and then we're moving forward. Let me quickly do one thing. Let me run this once and let's see what results am I getting. Is it actually the same? All right. I believe we've got the same results. Oh, lovely. So I was able to replicate your workflow exactly, and I'm getting the
Very
same results. Well, thank you so much, Naomi. This is very intuitive and very helpful because Stata code was a little tough for me to understand because I was totally new to it. But yeah, this works. Thank you.
No problem. Glad you have the data and also the analysis, and also you can reproduce the whole results by simply click run button. Now I'm going to share other features of Texera. So besides sharing data and sharing data analysis, Texera also provide the capability for people to discuss about their data and analysis. We provide the forum feature. I can start the discussion at any time I want. And I also have the capability to see the version of my workflow. Since during the whole development process of a workflow, I might do lots of modification, and Texera simply save those modification for me in the version history. And I can also see the version history of the workflow to see the status of the execution, to see the runtime statistics, so that I can have even very powerful insights of each execution. These insights give me the capability of debugging, iterating the workflow very efficiently. So that is the powerful features of Texera. And thank you, Anshuman. Thank you again for joining this demo.